Okay, welcome to another episode of Spry. We recently lost a dear friend of ours, and it reminded us that we've wanted to discuss a topic that touches everyone at some point, and that is funerals. So in this episode, we're going to share tips and ideas and insights that we've gained through our own personal experiences about, related to both paying respects and honoring those people that we've lost and supporting the friends or family that are still here and going through a difficult and sensitive time. So this is a pretty big and broad topic, and it's by no means exhaustive. These were just the things that were top of mind for us as we've been experiencing this over the last couple of weeks. And so we'll definitely revisit funerals again, and we would love to hear anyone's suggestions and insights and ideas too, because we're definitely still learning. And I just wanted to make a really quick note to say that we're from Utah. So most of our experiences are related to the LDS faith and are rooted in our local traditions here. We won't be talking about funeral potatoes, but that is a big tradition here. We'll share Mom's recipe because we think it's the best. But we're really interested in learning more about other traditions and other cultures and practices because I think, again, we have a lot to learn and we love any and all feedback. So without further ado, we'll begin.
Okay, so my first tip would be let's respect the family's wishes and understand your relationship with the deceased. So be very careful and thoughtful on showing up at a funeral, especially if it's a very small private funerals. If there's not a published obituary with funeral details and you've not received a direct invitation from the family, you probably shouldn't just show up. You're likely not invited. And and that's okay if you're not invited. Don't feel bad about that. There's other ways that you can pay your respects and support the family. So speaking about direct invitations, here it's traditional, and maybe everywhere, that there's a luncheon served afterwards. And that doesn't mean that everyone who shows up to the funeral is invited to this luncheon. As far as the church that I go to, I've been on the committee that serves the lunch, and it's just volunteer people, and they've been given a head count by the family, and it can go wildly in one direction or the other. You can have 50 less than they said or 50 more, and it causes a lot of stress. And these are people doing this out of the goodness of their heart. So be very careful about sticking around for the lunch or thinking that you're invited when you haven't been. So another tip would be to send flowers, food, and gifts to the correct address, because perhaps whoever you're sending these to, they're not even at home at the time. Or they're actually living in another place. Just make sure. I've just had a lot of experience where flowers come to the wrong place or come to the business place and they should have gone to the home or whatnot. So just make sure everything goes to the right place. Be thoughtful about the recipient of the flowers, the food or gifts. One of our favorite lines from Sex and the City is when Charlotte, on seeing a tacky floral arrangement at Miranda's mother's funeral, says, "They were supposed to say, 'I'm sorry for your loss,' not 'you're dead, let's disco.'" So send the right gift with the right tone. If you were not very close to the deceased, you shouldn't send an epic flower arrangement, but also don't send someone who hates to read a book about grieving. Don't send someone who hates taking care of houseplants a houseplant. All things like that. Just use your head.
Yeah, and I think that again, everything is done with like good intent, right? Mm-hmm. Like I want to do something, I want to show up, and so these are ideas that we've had for gifts that we love that we feel like are good for any relationship that you had with someone. we can't emphasize this enough. I think we've talked about this before. Just sending a text with a nice note of support and saying there's no need to respond, but just letting people know that you're thinking of them. Leaving a kind comment on the person's obituary. I know that when Tina died, we went through that obituary a lot just to sort of read what people were saying. And it was super appreciated and really recognized, like, oh, did you see so-and-so left a comment? Both of those things are free. Sending a physical card with a supportive handwritten note.
I think also in the card, including a memory you have. A lot of
Yes.
people don't think about that, but it's really impactful to just share a memory of, even if you didn't know the person well, but if you did, just sharing something.
Yeah.
That's what people shared on the obituary comments
Yeah.
section too. And it was very interesting because these things were completely unknown to us.
Right.
You know, these are memories she made with people she'd worked with for 15 years. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super, again, not really expensive, not over the top, but very meaningful, whether you're super close with somebody or maybe not. A DoorDash gift card, a gift card to a nursery. So someone could choose, like maybe they don't want a house plant, but they want a cactus or something.
Or
easier-
something to
or if-
plant in your yard.
Yeah.
Friends of ours, when my brother-in-law passed away, they actually bought us something to plant in our yard, a lilac bush, so that, for years, decades now, we've had this lilac bush that they gave to us.
Yep, I love that.
Shrub.
And making a donation to their favorite nonprofit organization, or if an organization is specified in the obituary, I thought that's a very nice gesture as well.
And I think that's really important. I think a lot of people will ignore that note when it says, in lieu of flowers, please
Yes.
donate, and they'll still send flowers. And there is a reason that someone has asked for you to make that donation instead. So
Yep.
just be respectful of that.
And then I did receive, it's interesting. One of the gifts I received when Tina died was a plant, but the plant was delivered with a note that I thought was really meaningful. So maybe connecting what you're giving to to the gift. So she sent me a letter and she said, I'm probably gonna cry. Wow. A friend bought me a plant after my dad died because she said you follow death with life. A year later, when the plant died, I thought about how it was just death following life again. A cycle we often don't see until it's painfully confronting us. So while I wouldn't say I'm a plant person, I do think that plant made it about a year, which is really good for me and us. It was like the connection of the note with the gift that
Yeah.
was so meaningful, and her shared experience, even though she didn't know my sister, she knew me. So anyway,
And she
I really
knew death.
appreciated that. Yeah.
Death and loss. One of the gifts that all three of us received from a great group of friends that I have was a pair of sunglasses and nice sunglasses. And a pack of tissues, and they called it to hide your eyes and dry your eyes. And we loved that. And we actually, we even wore the sunglasses at Tina's funeral. And that was something that they knew we would love and use all the time, but it was also thoughtful and connected to a note that made it more impactful.
Yep. We had friends bring us some very fabulous macarons, or is it macaron? Macarons. Anyway, from a local bakery, and just said, these are sweets to connect with your sweet memories, which I thought was nice. We also had a friend who gave us this star ornament. And I brought an example of one because I think we've since bought a lot of these because we thought this was such a nice gift. So, it's like a handcrafted star ornament. It could be anything related to stars. But she gave us this along with a quote that said, perhaps they are not stars in the sky, but rather openings where our loved ones shine down to let us know that they are happy, which is an Eskimo proverb. And that's something that, we really connected with and have used a lot since.
Yeah, we use our star as an ornament on our tree now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are lots of great star quotes out there. And then I did receive some books, but I got this note that said, I don't know how to help, but this book looks like it might be a good stepping stone when you're ready, which I thought was really lovely. And I think it's okay to say, like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to help. I care about you. And I did receive another book, again, from a friend who had gone through a big loss that said, this book really helped me. So, making that connection, which was great. And then I love Starbucks. And so we had some friends buy us a Starbucks gift card that just said, just a couple of friends wanting to buy some friends like you a drink, which I thought was nice.
Yeah, food is always a great gift, but I love the idea of a gift card because then you're not overwhelming someone with, perishable food that needs to be eaten right away.
We did have one experience, and this would be if you're very in the know on things. When Tina died, I don't know who sent us, like on Mom's doorstep was like a giant bag of bagels and cream cheese.
The morning
after she died.
For breakfast.
Yeah. And of course, like we really weren't in the mood at the time, but about 1 p.m., suddenly we all had a bagel. And I feel like we just ate those bagels for days. They were like Jesus with the fish or something. It's like, I feel like a bagel. And there it was. And we did have a friend, they lost their dad, and we just happened to find out that night. And so we had bagels delivered on the first day. And we kind of got the same feedback, like, oh, wow, those bagels just really came in handy. So, I mean, if you're, thinking about it, that was a good, like, sort of day one type, sustenance.
Another good food gift is post funeral. I mean, so after my brother-in-law's funeral, we didn't eat his luncheon. I'll just put it at that. And so we came home. It was a long day. We were exhausted and tired. And on our doorstep was a box of my very favorite Great Harvest sugar cookies that our nanny left us. And she just said, I thought you'd need a treat after a long day. And I think we ate the whole box. And just that sugar and having that there post funeral, because you're exhausted, you're hungry. And so we've tried to pass that on to a friend of ours. When she lost her father-in-law, we did a gift basket full of food. And she even mentioned to me that that's something she'll never forget, because they came home and just wanted to binge eat after the funeral.
Yeah.
And they came home and had a basket of food on their porch.
Yeah. I guess the irony of the luncheon, it's kind of like a wedding. Like you're tired and you're talking to people and there's a lot going on and you just forget to eat.
Sometimes you don't get to eat enough. And so just a Trader Joe's run and a couple of big bags of all the little snacks.
Some pantry food, something that's not going to go bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our handkerchiefs, because this is really connected with our recent loss and one of our favorite things.
Yeah, a close friend of mine recently passed away, and she many years ago created this. She had this idea to embroider handkerchiefs to be passed out to family and close friends at the funeral. She would put a symbol on it, but most of the time, just the letter of their first name on them, just something to make them personal for those who are at the funeral, and passed them out. And it is just such a fun thing to do. Not fun. It's a thoughtful thing to do.
Yeah, it's
and
a great
hard.
memento.
We have an embroidery machine, so we embroider our own, but there's many commercial places where you can have this done for someone. If you don't have that, you could order them from Deseret Book has them, but Amazon is king, and they can get there fast enough, because you usually only have about a week to get them done. And sometimes families are big and you've got to do 50 or 100. And during the time of this person who originated this, her passing and her funeral, because people associated this with her, there were many people who were thinking they were the only one going to pull this off for her service. So if we wouldn't have all coordinated and kind of heard through the grapevine, we would have had 1,000 handkerchiefs there. But
I
anyway,
still have all the handkerchiefs
Yep.
that you
I have-
guys have made for me.
stacked in a
yeah,
drawer.
stacked.
And it's so fun to just see them every once in a while.
Yeah, I
and
think
they're
it brings
so meaningful.
it brings warm memories when you see them,
Yeah.
in your closet or wherever.
Yeah.
It does.
And I also think it's great, just hopping on to another tip, to remember the people who are on the fringe, like, not someone who's the sister, but what about the super good friends, or a business
caregiver,
partner,
business
a caregiver,
associates.
that those people are really hurting. This is someone they were with day after day, and so it's really nice to maybe do something for them. I know, people did things for me after this friend passed, and I thought that is just so sweet.
Yeah, it's not always family that's grieving. We have to remember
Right.
coworkers, neighbors, anyone that you knew that might be close.
Right. So, another tip would be to just, kind of put it in your calendar or whatever you do to make your brain remember things, and remember that 1 year anniversary of the death. Surprisingly, after my daughter's death, at the 1 year anniversary day, we received flowers and cards. I just couldn't believe there were so many people who remembered and just wanted to say, hey, I'm still thinking of you, And about a year after her death, we were at at an event and ran into some people I hadn't seen in about 10 years. And they just said, oh, how's Tina doing? And people usually didn't ask about her. She didn't have a large group of friends or anything, but they had remembered her, and they had little kids, her kids' age, and just said, how's she doing? And I said, oh my gosh, she passed away. And I just started crying, like I might right now. But and I hope I didn't make him feel awkward, because in reality, I was so touched that they even remembered her, that is actually a really nice memory for me now, that they would even ask about her.
Yeah. I worked with a woman who was from Iran, and she remembered the 1 year anniversary of Tina's death, because in Iranian culture, the 1 year anniversary is another special day where you visit the cemetery, and there are, cultural events that happen around that. And so I thought, oh, that's really nice. And it was just something that she had brought up, because it's, that 1 year date is a big deal in their culture.
And not to move off the topic of funerals totally, but we had a friend who we marked her 1 year anniversary of being cancer free, and that was super impactful for her too. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought, oh, I'm going to send her cookies, because my iPhone had popped up photos of her celebration of being cancer free. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to send cookies to their house because it's been a year. And she just said, you can't believe how important this 1 year day is to me.
Yeah.
So it's more than just a loss or something. Like, remember these moments that were hard for someone, and, do something positive for them.
I think that's great. And another tip I have is just reaching out after any amount of time has passed. My daughter's named Estelle, and my friend Big Estelle, she sent something after her birth, but it was like 3 weeks later. And she said, oh, I do that on purpose because all the flowers are wilted and all the cakes are gone, and everyone has forgotten about you 3 weeks later. And, and so I thought, oh, that's really nice.
It doesn't always have to come right away.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's the thoughtfulness versus the timeliness, I think, that matters the most. And so, it's okay. Hey, if a month has passed, it's still okay to say something. And I think we talked about this a little while ago, but just getting cards in the mail and handwritten notes in the mail over time is very meaningful. In terms of like the funeral itself, I think I've learned over the years to like come prepared. So I always think about like a bride being prepared for a wedding, and I've started like bringing items to funerals that might be helpful. So, number one, like watching the weather in general, but bringing in Utah, winter funerals can be really hard. And so, we usually bring, extra boots for people that may have come in out of town. So I usually will bring like 2 or 3 pairs of boots, bring blankets, umbrellas, things like, a go bag with gum, mints, extra Kleenex, bobby pins, rubber bands. When I had little kids and like my family had little kids, we would have extra diapers, extra wipes, those types of things. But, I just like kind of have this go bag for a funeral because more often than not, it's like, oh, does anybody have, a hair tie or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great idea. One of the gifts that we were given when my brother-in-law died was the gift of childcare.
Oh, yes.
When he passed away, our kids were little. I mean, 5 and 3 or 4 and 2, very small enough that even though they loved their uncle and they had spent a lot of time, I wasn't going to bring them to the funeral just because they would be a distraction and it was going to be a very long day. And one of my good friends, instead of being at the funeral, which she wanted to, I said, I can't remember if I asked her if she offered. I said, would you watch the kids? And she, of course, took them. And what a gift that was.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
more impactful than if she had attended the funeral. She took the little kids so that we could, really spend that day mourning and talking to family who was there and things like that.
Yeah, one of Estelle's friends' moms sent me a text just saying, hey, can I have your kids over for a play date? And I was like, that would be so great. We're preparing for the celebration of life. Could they just come over so we can do that? And that really is a gift to just, allow someone, freedom to run errands or get things done.
Yeah, sometimes it's that practical support during a funeral that can be so helpful to anyone who's helping with the planning or preparation of it. So offering to help with running errands or, can I go to the store and grab eggs for you or helping with any sort of chores. We had people offer to help us with our yard for the celebration of life that we had for Tina, just any sort of way to alleviate the burden. And offering to help with funeral logistics. For Tina's celebration of life, that's where my friends really showed up for us. They came over, they were putting pictures in frames. We had a dear friend offer to do all of the decor and tablescapes, all of the flower arrangements. We were doing these charcuterie boxes and we had friends, we had cousins, we had so many people that showed up just to help us with these practical tasks that needed to be done for this big event. Helping set up chairs, cleaning up, all of these things. You can really help out there.
Yeah, that was huge. Many hands make light work, as they say.
And now that we're reviewing this, I'm feeling like, did I learn? Am I there for people?
I feel like it's
I
always...
hope I try harder.
Yeah, it's always a continual learning, right? Like I know that there have been opportunities that I've missed where I have done nothing after someone had a loss or something hard happened.
Oh, yeah.
That I think, where was I? What was going on? So it's just, we're continually trying to be better and to be more helpful.
Yeah. So, again, we'd love everyone's feedback. If you have tips and tricks and, as we're saying, we're constantly learning and trying to do better. And I'm sure this is a topic that we will revisit again.
Yeah.
So
there's a whole nother topic of running a funeral versus
Yes.
just being a support for someone else who's having a funeral that we can do a whole episode on.
we'll call this funerals part 1.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. You can find us on all of the socials at Stay Spry or at stayspry.com. And the Spry Podcast is a production of On Air Studios.